Okay, good morning. For the record, I'm Chris Young, Chair of the HDC Sign Advisory Committee. Let's confirm access. Members, please respond with an aye when I call your name. We have Paul Wolf.
Aye.
And Mark Catone.
Aye.
And for staff, we have Billy Sad.
Here.
This open meeting of the HDC's SAC is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. That order, posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to convene remotely so long as public access to deliberations is reasonably provided. This meeting is convening via Zoom with video and audio recording available on the town's YouTube channel. We will feature public comment. Materials provided to members for the meeting or provided during the meeting are, unless otherwise noted, available on the town's website. During the meeting, I'll introduce agenda topics and speakers. Please remember to mute your Zoom audio until your name's called, and direct comments and questions through the chair to avoid crosstalk and the taking of minutes easier. We will be conducting votes by roll call. With that said, we'll move on to the meeting. We'll call it to order at 9:02 a.m. on October 15th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mark, are you in favor?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I am as well. And do we have a motion to approve the minutes that we were sent?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mark, you're in favor?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Great. Do we have any members of the public here for general public comment not related to an application on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments that would like to be made at this point? Open that up to either one of you.
No.
All right, seeing none. We will, I see, I actually went out of order with the approval of minutes. Sorry about that. But let's move on to new business. We have one applicant for 8 different sign locations. Is there somebody on the call from Cape Cod 5 that would like to take the lead on introducing applications? We'll do them one at a time, but just so that we kind of know who we're dealing with, who would like to be the representative on the call?
I'm Chris Raber. I'm the Chief Real Estate Officer for Cape Cod 5, and I'm going to let Bethany from Poyant Signs describe what's going on here. They're the designers and they submitted the package, and then we can respond to questions accordingly. But I'll let Bethany introduce the projects to you.
Okay, thanks, Bethany. Why don't we do each location initially? Just walk us through like 112 Pleasant Street, the overall package, and then we'll have to take action on each of the signs individually. But walk us through the whole plan for 112 Pleasant, please.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Bill.
Bethany, would it be easier for you to share your own screen for this presentation? You have the ability to do that.
Okay, I'll share that.
Thanks.
Okay. Is everyone able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so for 112 Pleasant, basically what we are doing here is Cape Cod 5 has been undergoing a rebrand with their logo. They have updated their logo, and we have been going through all of their locations and replacing pretty much all the signs like for like square footage wise, just with the updated brand package. For this location here, there are currently 2 signs on the building. They are linear, and we did keep them that way. So both signs are horizontal. They are carved. We are proposing to replace them with HDU just so that they will hold up better over time. There'll be less deterioration. They are still carved. The background is a wood carved finish with the texture, and then the letters are carved and raised. I do believe we had sent over some samples to the town, so I don't know if any of you have those with you today, but we did send a sample of what that looks like over with our application. The next one here, they do have a blade sign that is hanging from a bracket. We are replacing the bracket and the sign. The bracket that is there is showing a lot of rust and wear, so we do want to replace that to make sure it is new, fresh. Same thing. The square footage is ultimately the same if we draw a rectangle around the oval sign that is here. And it will be carved down as well, carved with the raised text. And you can kind of, that's what the detail here shows. The next sign is an addition. Right now they post the hours, I believe it's a piece of paper in the window. So we are proposing to add a carved hours plaque to the building that shows the hours. The top part is carved, so it matches all of the other signs. The bottom is flat, and we do that so that way if the hours do ever change, we don't have to replace the entire sign. We can just replace that section there with the updated hours. The next sign in the package is a band with hours that we are proposing to add to the drive-up window. That way everyone at the drive-up also can see the hours. Again, the column blocks it, but there is, I believe, a piece of paper posted there with the hours in the window. That is hard to see with the size of it. Currently, there are no clearance signs on the drive up, so we are adding those just to make sure nobody is going to hit it, and that if the trucks are too large, they don't proceed through it. Those are just flat aluminum panels for these, as they are more of a regulatory style sign and a not branded sign. So that is basically the full package for 112 Pleasant, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have on this package.
Okay, thanks for that. I think
Chris?
we should, yeah, I'll let the board members speak. Let's just kind of go freeform here because there's a lot of
I say I can go back to the first one if we want to go
so we will
page
take
by
action
page.
on each. Yeah, let me just let Paul and then Mark weigh in, and then we'll see how we address each sign individually. But from a global view, Paul?
Yeah, from a global view, I don't know what we approved previously, 10 years ago, apparently, according to Chris. But these signs are not made of wood. They're made of some other material, which I don't quite know what it is. And that's contrary to our guidelines. And I think it applies to all of them. And I guess we have to decide if we're going to agree to that or not. Those are my only questions. Well, the other one, well, wait till we go through them all.
Okay.
The last
Mark?
picture, the last picture
Go ahead,
that
Paul.
the last picture that Bethany showed something that says "Welcome to Cape Cod 5." And I didn't understand. One more. See this up top? Where is that sign going to be?
So this is going to be in the drive up on the window of the drive up. And it is a vinyl band that would only be applied to one window. And this portion here is actually an insert holder. So if they are closed or have special holiday hours, they can change out that message to let everyone know if there is a special event or a closing or updated hours because of a holiday.
Yeah, I guess I have a concern about the message. They know when they get to that point, they know they're at Cape Cod 5. So I don't know. Are there two locations where it says Cape Cod 5 then? One on this welcome sign and then the other one on the bottom corner?
Yeah, so the bottom corner is a permanent that always says Cape Cod 5. We have this as a placeholder, but this is an insert that switches depending on different case scenarios.
Yeah,
so it might not always say this. So
I'm not in favor of that particular sign.
Okay.
But anyway, those are my questions.
Thanks, Paul. Mark?
Yeah, I would generally agree with everything Paul has said. The materiality is a high density urethane, I think is what that is. It's a composite material.
Correct.
Used because it's well, as stated by the applicant, wood and rot resistant. As Paul has said, that is inconsistent with the guidelines. We recommend a solid wood material. The idea that specifically these signs are actually designed to patina some. They're designed to age. They shouldn't always look brand new over time. So therefore, we do encourage the genuine wood materials, if you will. So that's certainly a concern. That's not something that we try and encourage. And that would be consistent with these materials, but also even the metal signs. I know you're stating them as regulatory, but even in that application, I think there's opportunities to do a painted sign or what have you there for clearances. I would agree also with Paul on the window signage. I think the hours have already been marked previously as proposed by the rear entrance. I think it is well, I say rear entrance, actually, that's to the right of the door facing Pleasant Street, it looks like. So Chris, I'm giving some global comments, but do we want to hold comments until we get specific?
No, I think, I mean, we can dive in. So since this sign is on the screen, I think it's worth discussing. That was one of the thoughts I had as well. So if you want to start there.
I guess what I was going to say is that I feel like it's a bit much. This is really like a third wall sign on this building, because there's one on the large gable face. We have one that faces Pleasant as proposed. This new one that's now proposed, this really reads as another sign. I actually would prefer to see really just a decal. I know this is, and it's not really consistent with our guidelines, but I think it's a better option. A decal, something that's clear, maybe just white lettering, simple, that gets used by many merchants inside the window frame instead. So it might sit in one of those glass. You could peel it off if your hours change, you get a new one, what have you. It was like, actually, that would be a lot less laborious than having this sign made up and then having to change out parts of it for hour changes down the road. That's just me speaking. I don't know if everybody's gonna feel the same, but banking's one of those things where I think hours oddly are a little bit more critical in terms of operation. I find that they're a little bit more unique sometimes, and it's useful to have them posted. So I'm sympathetic to that. I don't think if the hours are posted here at this main entry door, I don't think we need to see them again at the rear. If somebody has a confusion as to whether those are open, I think also those bays indicate with lights above whether they're open or closed. Someone can park, they can check the main entrance and then see what the hours are for the building itself. So I don't know that needs to be repetitive. I think those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I was going to say that the guidelines specifically lay some criteria out that we should just address. You know, the number of signs for a location is limited to 2. This building's been granted a variance to that for reasons of importance of relaying specific information. I recall when we put that gable end sign facing sort of down Pleasant Street, it was, you know, because of visibility and hard to read the sign on the gable facing along the sidewalk of Pleasant Street. So there's been some give and take already, and I think that hours sign does read as another wall sign. And further, the guidelines specifically discourage or don't allow hours of operation to be on a sign. So I think it would be hard for us to recommend approval for both of those reasons. But Paul or Mark, you're right. I think, you know, banks have just like the hospital, you know, there's certain locations where it's important to post your hours of operation. Something in the glass, or maybe even using the sort of less than 12 square inch approach, where it's not advertising Cape Cod 5 as much, but listing the hours. So the guidelines allow for signs that are less than 1 square foot. However, they do count as a third or fourth sign when you're counting signs. So it would be another variance, but I think that having something there next to the door that's very subtle could be approved, whether it's in the glass or even just a small sign that's listing hours, not necessarily broadcasting the brand, could be appropriate.
Would you
And
be
then at the
open
ATM, I think
to a
those signs are,
band with the hours on the door?
what do you mean by a band? Like going across the
So
whole thing?
something like without the brand part, but just like a brand like this, so it's a blue band that says drive up lobby that would go across right above the push bar. I only ask because of the grid that they have in this door to fit the hours inside of one. They would be very small to have to cut out of vinyl. So we would have to digitally print it on clear, but they would be very small to fit in one of these without overlapping the grid in there, that then would help readability if we could do it on a solid background. I'm just open if you're open to it.
Well, personally, I think that that's, if it's a blue band, it's kind of calling attention to it. It's really sort of, if we're saying the hours aren't, the guidelines don't allow for the hours to be posted. If we're saying posting the hours in the most subtle way makes sense to the public, I think we would ask you to find the most subtle way to do it. And at the ATM, I agree. I think you've got the lighted signs. Those are not really even addressed with the applications previously. I don't think, where it says open and, bay open, bay closed. They exist. They serve a function. I'm not sure putting another banner of window signage across that drive-up window is appropriate. It certainly would be a fifth or sixth or seventh sign, depending on how we start counting these up. So,
Yeah, Chris, if I may, I think.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think your Main Street bank now is successfully posting the hours literally inside a window pane, like on a white vinyl clear. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what's there now. Second, it takes 3 seconds to check here. You guys are usually very good about posting hours and updating information on Google. So you punch it in, it's right there. It's about somebody's really looking for that. So I do agree with what Chris has stated. I think it has to, if it's going to be anything at all, it has to be minimal. And I think it's achievable. Yeah, will it be small? Sure. You're not going to see it from the road. You should be standing at the door anyway, so it should be legible. And certainly, I would not encourage any kind of banding of any kind, whether it's on this door or at the drive-up.
Thanks, Mark. Paul, do you have any other comments that you want to make?
No, I don't think so, Chris.
Okay. So we can go and take, now let's go back to the HDU concept. That's something else the guidelines say that, signs must be made of wood. Putting it back to Bethany, are you, would you like to modify the application before we put a recommendation to the board, or how would you like to respond to that thought?
I'd like to ask Chris. Chris, would you be open to switching it if it's required?
Yeah, if it's required. We're just trying to use the best available material, and sorry. We're just trying to use the best available material, and thinking that, for longevity and quality, that this is, what we should do. But if wood is strictly the only thing allowed, then, we would go back and or accept, a finding that said the wood that has to be carved out of wood. I don't know if it has to be any particular type of wood, or can it be an engineered wood? It's something that
yeah, well, and with the HDU and or PVC, it basically almost is composite engineered, so it does give the effect of the wood. I mean, honestly, from walking by, you would not notice that it's not wood, but I understand, I believe it was Mark who said, like, over time, it will look new for a longer period because it is that HDU that will hold up, especially being so close to the water with all the salt and everything like that as well. And again, I'm not sure if you did receive the sample and had a chance to look at it to see how it looks, but we do carve in that wood grain, so it does even give more an effect of wood and not just a flat background.
Yeah. I mean, excuse me. We are familiar with the HDU, concept. We're here to judge the merits of your application based on the guidelines that, we have to sort of follow and tell the HDC board whether or not your application complies. So unfortunately, from our perspective, it calls for wood. The intention is that it will help patina the boards over time and just blend into the historic, streetscapes. So that's where we're bound by following what the guidelines suggest. There's certainly ways to, sort of bend to each applicant's needs, but in that case, it's more of a, it's not like we're talking about certain sign locations and things that might be.
Can you remind me what
beneficial?
What the process is? What is the process for
Sure,
amending this application, or do we actually have to, if we amend it, then we have to come back to you all with the amended, and then we go back to the sign to the HDC?
Thanks. There's a few things. We're going to send a recommendation. Well, we can do a few things today. We can table this and just hold for revisions. We could make a recommendation so that it would be reviewed at tonight's meeting of the HDC that either recommends approval or recommends denial based on sort of our finding. And if you decided to say we'll change the material, for example, you could amend that application right here and now, ask Billy to just make an adjustment so that we could send it up with a recommendation saying we recommend approval based on the applicant's changing of material, for example. So there's a way to get through the process today, based on your decisions. But
Sure.
those are the three options we have: hold for revisions, recommend approval, or recommend denial.
Well,
we have to make
say
that
we would
action on each of the different signs.
Okay. Well, we can definitely change the two. We want to go with the two gable signs. We certainly want to replace the what do you call the blade sign, the small hanging sign, and we can make those of wood, and then if the other ones are the wall sign that had the logo and the hours, if you'd like to take that, if you're not recommending that, do we take that out of this package and come back? Do we need to come back and show you hours on the door? If that's something that, basically that's what we have now, we could just continue to do that. And we can try to do it in a much more subtle way if possible. Do we just take this sign out of the package right now?
We're going to be voting on, I forget the total is, but each sign individually. So in other words, you don't have to worry about the package necessarily. We're going to be voting on, when we're going to get approval for the signs that you recommend, and theoretically, and not get approval for the signs you don't. So we can hold for revisions on anything that you want us to. So, yeah.
Okay.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you'd like us to take, you'd like us to take a vote on the two wall signs, the gable signs, and the projecting sign, using wood as the material. And then we'll hold for revisions the other applications.
Yeah, and if there's issues with this sign here and issues with the drive up, we could hold those, come back with something if we feel that is more in line. I would say something about the clearance signs. Again, I would offer to make these out of wood and paint them. I think they're important, and I'll tell you why. Because we have an unbelievable number of people drive through the drive-ups with vans with ladders on top. They forget that they have 16 ladders on the roof of their car. The painters. We've had people pull through with literally boats with T-tops on them, cars with three bicycles on them. People just forget what they've got on top of their car and they go through. So it's a safety issue. It's a maintenance of the building issue. Again, if we change these to a a carved sign, a wooden sign, painted wood sign, I should say, we'd like to put them up.
I don't think there was any dissension amongst the board about that. Just the material question.
Right.
Was what we were. So why don't we?
You want a motion, Chris?
Yeah, please make a motion. Sorry, I was just having a moment. Go ahead, Mark.
You want one motion for all of these, or how do you
let's make a separate
Individual.
motion. We'll just do one each sign so we can keep it easy for Billy.
Sure. So I guess I'd make a motion or a recommendation for approval of the front wall sign with the material change to wood to comply with our guidelines as discussed.
Second.
Okay, Mark, you're in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Paul, I am as
Aye.
well. Okay.
I would make
Good.
Sure, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. We're just gonna go through this process a few times.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would make the same recommendation for the sidewall sign. Recommendation for approval with the material change that's consistent with the guidelines and as discussed in this meeting.
Second.
All right, Mark, you're in favor.
Aye.
Yeah, Paul,
Aye.
and I am as well. Okay, that's the two gable end signs.
Yep.
Okay.
I believe in sequence the drive up sign is next. I would not make a recommendation for approval on the drive up sign. I would hold for revisions on that
Second.
if they feel that's
Okay.
needed.
All right, Mark, you're in favor.
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
I am as well.
On the clearance side, I'd make a recommendation, for approval with the material changes consistent with the guidelines. That sign, I will also open it up that can simply be a painted sign or carved.
Second.
Okay, Mark, you're in favor.
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
I am as well.
Regarding the wall hours sign, we would not recommend approval as applied. We might suggest something that's more subtle and vinyl material applied within one light of the existing doors,
Second.
and not recommending any solid banding whatsoever.
Second.
Okay, Mark, you're in favor.
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
I am as well. So that's a hold for revisions, is what we're.
Yeah.
acting on that one.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be a hold for revisions.
Yeah.
For the
We
project.
have
Oh, sorry.
addressed the projecting sign. Yeah, I was thinking.
For the projecting sign, I'm going to recommend.
Go ahead, Mark, on the projecting sign.
Approval. Again, the material should be consistent with the guidelines. And as discussed in this meeting, I will add just lastly, and this will apply to all the material changes. I know that I think these signs have been applied for with a wood textured background. If they change and should change the material to one that is consistent with the guidelines, I don't feel strongly that where there's an expectation that there would be a what sometimes referred to as a sandblasted or wire brushed background. It could revert to a smooth background. If they go with mahogany or cedar or something of that nature, most likely mahogany material, it'll be smooth unless they choose to go through the extra step of wire brushing or sandblasting that background. I don't know that our guidelines actually address that directly, but I find that actually the smooth background is a more traditional approach versus what we sometimes see with this wire brushed or textured background. Thank you.
Okay, so you're recommending approval on that with the material change.
Correct, correct with that.
Second.
And I agree with that thought. It's also just, yeah, from a maintenance point of view, I think too, the smooth might last longer just because it doesn't give as much nooks and crannies for weather, but that's the applicant's decision. Billy, you have a question before we vote?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, we're not conditioning like sandblasting or smooth color or anything like that. That'll be at the applicant's discretion. Okay.
I think so.
I just want to make sure I have it right.
That is what I'm saying. I don't think we
Right. I think
we don't permit it, but if they are now going to comply with a material change, I don't feel that they need to be wed to the textured background. If that comes up, I want to give them some latitude there and encouragement maybe to go, as Chris has stated, with the smooth background.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion for the blade sign to be approved with the material change. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Mark, you're in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
And I am as well. Thanks, Paul. Okay, so that carries. I think that concludes the signs for 112, correct? So if we want to move down to Main Street, Bethany will turn it back over to you. Introduce us to the changes there.
Gonna pull that one up. Okay, so for Zero Main, basically the same as Pleasant. We are proposing to replace the existing blade sign with a new one with the updated brand. We are we'll switch this one over to wood as well, so they will both be consistent with each other and with the guidelines. The second sign that we are proposing, they do have a small Cape Cod 5 sign on the building as well. So we were going to replace that, but add the hours. The hours, I don't actually have a photo here, but the hours are on a solid panel, hanging in the window that's to the left here. I believe it's a wooden panel that is on two hooks that are between the two panes of glass. So it's between the exterior window and the interior window. So it's very hard to get to switch out. So we were proposing to add that outside the door that does show that they do have a 24-hour ATM, a walk-up ATM inside the lobby, as well as the branch hours. With keeping the logo on there to replace the existing one that shows that there is an ATM on the building.
That was that original
again,
sign that hung in the bay window, or the large shop window. It was a small wood carved sign, but the hours were, inaccurate for a long time. So that was removed and replaced with a film or a posted something on the door. And then occasionally we use a cling film type thing that says, hey, we're going to be closed, at this day before and after a holiday, or on these holidays. So we've done that before. We typically do it, at other branches that way. Again, we could, if there was objection here to this type of sign, we'd like to keep, obviously, a logoed wall sign, because as you're walking down the street, sometimes people's eyes, it's easier to identify which door is ours versus there's another door at the other end of this kind of infill between the two original structures, I think. It looks kind of like our door, but it's not. It goes up to the upstairs offices. So we'd like to have a logoed wall sign. If it's not combined with the hours, then we can figure out some other way to do the
All
hours.
right, well, Chris, You speak as if you're reading right out of the sign book, because signage is intended to help identify the location of the business and specifically its entrance. So, and you're allowed 2 signs per business, especially one wall sign in combination with a projecting sign. So all those things line up in your favor, to be quite honest. And I think that, you know, I'll let the board members speak, but we might just be back to an hour's question. Mark, do you want to start out?
Yeah, I don't have any concerns with the projecting sign. Again, my comments, and it sounds like the applicant is willing to make the adjustment to their application to be consistent with materiality in our guidelines. Excuse me, in our guidelines. I don't have an issue with a wall sign left of the entrance for the reasons that have been stated. Pardon me. I would encourage the removal of the hours based on the previous discussions, and encourage maybe, again, something, a clean film insert or something on one pane of the glass. And ideally the removal of the one that's in the window now. I did go on Google Earth and you can see that sign is placed at bay window. So if this sign before us on the screen now were abbreviated to simply the Cape Cod 5, modified with the removal of the hours. I guess it would be good, and I guess we should, if this goes down that path, I think the file should be updated with the updated graphics for what this will actually look like in the end if there is a removal, encourage removal of the hours below Cape Cod 5 graphic itself. And again, I would be suggesting materiality consistent with the guidelines. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Paul, any thoughts?
I agree with what Mark said. I think it's important that they have the identification of the facility as Cape Cod 5, and then I think the hours should be in the glass window. I don't have any other comments.
The glass window
Okay,
of the
thanks.
door, is that what I understand?
Yes,
Ideally.
yes, the glass.
Okay.
pane of-
Ideally, yeah.
I just want to make sure.
One of the lights
Yeah.
in the door.
Yeah, so I agree. I think that, and probably the cleanest way forward, as Mark pointed out, is we do want the file to be updated and accurate. So this sign, if it's going to go ahead as a hold for revisions, ought to actually come back as 2 signs, one for the wall and then just the hours in the window, just like you're going to be doing. So there's a window sign type that's in the guidelines, and you'd sort of be applying for a window sign with the hours, and you'd be applying for a window sign with the hours over on Pleasant Street as well, if that's the route you're going to take. So I would suggest this be in the applicant. You can tell us if this the course you want us to take, hold for revisions on this, but we could take action on the projecting sign, since it seems like that's got general approval with the material change. Does that make sense to you guys?
I think I understand. I guess process question.
Well,
But Bethany, you may.
yeah, it's a
you may
process
know-
question.
You know the answer to this. If we revise something, does it go right back to you, or is it a separate application? How does it work?
Yes,
Is
it comes
just
back
part
to
of the
us.
same
So
application?
right, yeah, this would be just the wall sign would be revised.
Okay.
But it would be
Submit a
2
new
new
design,
applications
update
for
the
adding the
application to
hours
reflect
as a
it.
window sign. For each
There would be a
location.
new application just for that window sign. Correct. Or
Because
you
it's a
could update in
third
the case
sign
of
technically,
Pleasant
because
Street.
the
You could
hours
just
would be separate
revise.
from the wall.
Or is it amending our one
In this
application?
location, yes. In this location, you'd be applying for a third sign. So you'd be revising the wall sign, applying for the window sign.
Okay.
At Pleasant Street, because what we're suggesting is that you shouldn't have an additional wall sign for those hours. You would just be revising that application to become a window sign.
Okay.
Okay. That's procedurally, I think, the cleanest way. In any case, it just comes back to us so that we can tell the full board whether, how your application comply or not with the guidelines. So, Billy, have I misspoken in any way there?
No, I was going to say how you pretty much summed it up. I think that's the cleanest way to do it. And considering, I mean, I think if the applicant gets something in within the next, I would say week, we could bring it back for the next sign meeting. I don't think you need, in terms of your revision, you don't need to recreate the wheel here. I would say just update the design and make sure Nikki gets a copy of that.
Yeah, I was just thinking if we're updating the same application, then we don't have to go get another form signed by NIR, and it's just a process, right? But we just want to make it fast for you and us, but and easy. But I think I understand what we need to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, we would need just a one extra application because it's a different sign type. So but why don't we take action on this blade sign? Does somebody want to make a motion for the projecting sign here?
I'd make a motion for a recommendation for approval for the blade sign as applied. Again, just to clarify that there'll be a change in material to be consistent with the guidelines.
Second.
Paul, you're in favor?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Okay, I am as well. And for the wall sign, I think we're suggesting hold for revisions. Somebody want to make that motion?
I'd make a motion to hold for revisions for the wall sign.
Second.
Okay, great. Paul, you're in favor?
Aye.
Mark, you're in favor?
Aye.
And I am as well. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everybody from Cape Cod 5 for being on the call and going through our bureaucratic process here. Hopefully it made sense. And we look forward to seeing some new signs on the buildings and a couple of new applications at our next meeting.
All right.
Can I just confirm for the ones we're revising and amending, do we still mail in paper copies to amend those? Or could the updated drawings be emailed? We can do either way. I just wanted to clarify for the amended ones.
The way I typically did it was via email. I mean, if it's just you should just be updating one sheet of that entire handout, correct?
Yes.
Or for that one
Just
individual application, I think it would be simple enough for staff to just swap the page rather than, get a whole nother packet of information and that sort of thing.
Okay. Because we can do either one. If we email it, it's probably quicker too, getting it to you to be able to get back on.
I agree, and that's the way I would typically do with it. I deal with it. I'm just standing in today. Nikki is who typically runs this, so I just want to make sure she's okay with it, but I think she would be. She's not in today. So one of us can follow up with an email to you. I was going to say Bethany.
Okay, that's fine. I know she has Catherine's email. Catherine's my project manager that's been working with her to get everything submitted. So I will have her follow up with her if she doesn't hear from her before we resubmit it.
Okay.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. That concludes our new applicants portion. And Billy, I guess moving on to the enforcement side of the agenda, do you have anything to share, or did Nikki give you any updates?
I do not. Bethany, can you stop? Thank you. No, I have not been involved in any enforcement of any kind.
Okay.
I'm literally just I'm a fill-in here because Nikki's not in today.
Chris, I have a question.
Well, go ahead, Paul.
I just sent you something yesterday.
I have that to forward, yes.
I neglected to put on, in addition to what I said there's a flag sign outside the building as well.
Right,
Okay.
right. I was gonna point that out. It's too low. By,
Well, we didn't
for
approve
the
any of it.
guidelines, whether it's approved or not, it's not in the right location. So yeah, that'll get forwarded on.
Okay,
I have that in my email. So yeah, per the request of staff, just anything that wants to be forwarded on, please send it to me and I will make sure it ends up in Nikki's inbox.
So thank you again.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye now.
Right, I think that concludes our business today.
Motion for adjourn?
Paul, would you like to second that? Oh boy, we're gonna be here a long time.
Motion to adjourn. Let's repeat.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to second, but I'm gonna second. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Paul. Mark, are you in favor?
Aye.
aye,
All right.
aye.
Mark's in favor. Paul's in favor. Billy, are you in favor?
I'm in favor, and I
go
just
home.
wanted to add, I think today is
Thanks,
Nikki's
everybody.
birthday. So
Yeah.
if you all get a chance, maybe shoot her a
Okay.
message.
I'll make a sign.
Oh, shoot, we've officially adjourned the meeting. Yeah, right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good
Appreciate
day.
it. Bye now.
Bye.